smart home, tech support, and point of sale. Local customer service in Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and Bonita.
And right now, we're welcoming to the show Clair Beckman on the top box, and Joyce is in the bottom box, and they are from the Sanibel Shell Club, not to be confused with the Sanibel Shell Museum or Sanibel Shell Road or Sanibel Shell House, or there's so many shell things going on there.
Is it Sanibel Captiva Shell Club?
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Claire, tell us about the club first. What's the Sanibel Shell Club about?
The Sanibel Shell Club was created in 1961 primarily to host the Sanibel Shell Show, which is now in its 84th year. But the mission of the club is primarily educational. So we put on the Shell Show, which is a judged event inside the community house, usually, not this year. And the proceeds from that, the net proceeds, are used for grants for people who are studying mollusks, which known to most people as shells, but mollusks are the animal, the shell, the complete package. So people who are studying mollusks, people who are studying healthy oceans. We donated about $30,000 last year to University of Florida, University of South Florida, FGCU's Water School, SCCF, Bailey Matthys National Shell Museum. So we have a number of grants that we make because education is our primary mission, and we meet monthly during season on the island.
So can you explain to Ed the difference between conchology and malacology?
Malacology? I'll let Joyce take
what that is.
Okay.
You're here to explain it to me like you know what it is.
I looked it up.
Okay, so conchology is the study of shells, and malacology is a study of the whole animal. And the shell is part of that animal. So when you're out on the beach collecting seashells, you're really collecting dead animal body parts.
Oh, how gross!
They're houses, like they're housing,
right?
Yes. But unlike
it looks like you got a bunch of dead animals behind you there, showing them off in your case there.
So unlike us, who we move from house to house over periods of time, those guys are in the same house their whole life.
It just keeps growing and growing. It's like if you started gaining weight and your house just gets bigger, that's kind of what's happening with the shells.
Yeah. So a couple of samples. So this is a little young Florida horse conch, which is a Florida state shell. And he will grow to be, as big as this and bigger.
Holy moly.
So the largest one, I believe, is 24 inches. Is that correct, Claire, in the museum? So this is, and this is the Florida state shell. And I am not good at getting this in the center of the camera.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you flip that shell over a little bit and show? Yeah.
Okay.
So how does the color work inside the shell?
It's genetics.
Okay.
In some mollusks, it can what they're eating can change their color, they say, but primarily it's genetics. And so that they grow by there's an organ that's like a skin. It's called a mantle. And this is too big to really show. Let me grab a smaller one. So this is the lightning whelk. So the animals in here, he has this skin that goes over the edge of it's like a fold of skin. And that is continually laying new shell material over this open edge of the shell.
So the shell's only growing just along that edge.
Along this edge. Right.
And then it just keeps scrolling.
Yeah. And as the body gets bigger, because he's eating, he's getting bigger. Well, then the opening gets bigger and bigger.
Yep.
So do you guys ever walk around your house and say, we got too many damn shells around the house? What are we going to do with all these shells?
Never.
Well, my thing would be keeping them dust free. So it looks like
we don't talk about that.
We are not dust free ever. Never. But no one who collects anything, whether it's shells or skulls or beach glass, no one who collects has ever said, I have too many of fill in the blank ever. Doesn't.
How many skulls do you have at your house, Claire? Is that never mind?
A lot, probably maybe 20 or 30. I don't know.
Oh wow! So
we're supposed to be talking about the shelf.
That's right. I just wanted to. So if people who are not conchologists are out shelling, they should not take. They should only take shells that are unoccupied.
Right. Yeah.
And the easiest
throw
thing,
the rest back.
The easiest thing is to smell it. And if it doesn't stink, put it back.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that I researched when we were trying to get ready to do a show on Sanibel was how unique the island is in relation to shells. The way the island is facing a certain way, which makes it a really big deal for shells compared to maybe other beaches. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I don't know, Joyce, you want to? Or you want me to?
So it's like a backwards J.
That was a good.
And if you look at the other barrier islands, they're more parallel with the coastline, and with the direction of the currents, it just brings it up. The shells just come up on shore easier. And the other thing is, if we have a northwest wind like we've had this last month, that the northwest winds blow over the surface of the island and it pushes the surface waters out. It sets up an undertow, and that undertow is what brings the shells in. Cool. So when it's the good news, when there's a northwest wind, the shells come in. The bad news, it's 57 degrees. And so
the good news, the really good news is it really doesn't last that long.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you guys have this event at the community house, when you have it live, the people going there, are they looking at shells? Obviously, they're looking at shells. Are they buying shells? Or and for their collection, like Joyce has behind her there, and that very fine looking setup there. She's got lights in there and the whole thing. It's very special back there, and she fits right in between them too. Like she set it up to do a show.
Who would guess, huh?
So there's a couple things, but the shelf this year, because of COVID, the Sanibel Shell Club is having a virtual shell festival March 5th and 6th from noon to 3 on our club YouTube channel. So this year, you'll be watching essentially 2 3-hour movies with door prizes. We have photo contest with over 300 entries from 15 countries. You'll be helping to vote. It's all from your computer like we're doing today. But last year and next year, and Joyce chaired the show last year, and we'll chair it again next year with Mary Burton. But you come to the festival, you line up outside, and as you're coming in, the outside is shell crafters selling things. There's T-shirts for sale. You come in, and the inside is more the Shell Club bailiwick. And the outside proceeds benefit the community house. Inside supports the club grants. And yes, you buy books, T-shirts, jewelry, shells. But the big draw, the reason people come from all over the world, literally, is because it's a judged competitive show. One room is artistic, one room is scientific, and there's many categories in there for people to enter. And some of the professional artists who come bring works that cost upward for one Valentine of more than $20,000. Wow. So cool stuff to see. I'll let Joyce add on what she wants to here.
Yeah, and so last year we had 180 exhibitors that came from 60 cities in 24 states and 4 countries. Wow. And the exhibits are phenomenal. The scientific, when we talk about the scientific exhibits, basically those are shells that are part of a person's shell collection, and you can enter a single shell. For instance, it's a single shell you picked up yourself strictly on Sanibel, or it can be a single shell you picked up somewhere in Florida or the Caribbean, or it could be a single shell you picked up worldwide. So there's different categories for each one. And then we have multiple shell exhibits that range up to 40 feet in length. Every year we have at least 2 or 3 that are 40 feet long. And so it's a competition to see not only which is the prettiest shells or more the rarest shells, but how they're displayed.
So what are some of the rare shells? What are some of the most valuable shells, let's say?
Well, if you're on Sanibel and you're shell collecting, this is the one you want to look for. This is the Junonia. Whoop, where'd it go? There it is. So this is one that it's a deep water shell, so it doesn't roll up on shore, very often.
And you'll never find it. For example, people will say, oh, I'm so worried about finding a live Junonia. You will not find a live Junonia. They live way offshore, super deep. But that makes them special. Scotch bonnets aren't that easy to find on Sanibel. Lion's paws are a little easier to find towards Blind Pass, but you'll rarely find one on the east end of Sanibel. But are they extremely valuable? Only if you're walking the beaches and you're a collector. You can buy a Junonia for probably around $100, but and there are way more expensive shells in the world. People often don't realize that there are specific shells to specific locales. Even the shells you find in Miami are different from the ones in Sanibel. The shells you find in the Philippines or Vietnam or anywhere in Asia are very different than you find in Alaska. So there's all sorts of determinants. So at any rate, the ones here are not phenomenally valuable from a monetary perspective as some of the others would be.
So when you have the Sanibel Shell Show, Claire, say that 5 times.
Yeah, I know,
fast,
right?
Without curse word. Did you say you had people that are judged on shells they collect and judge on shells that they are making?
There's two sides to the shell show in the community house. One room is artistic. So it's categories like single shell flower, and that's a flower made out of a shell. Sailor's Valentines. There are shell mirrors. There's shell display. There's shell jewelry. There's a multitude of categories. And within the artistic category, there's amateur, which means you've never sold anything, and professional, which means you do sell things. And each of those categories is judged by 2 judges in artistic, 2 judges in scientific. Joyce, do you want to talk more about the scientific side?
Yeah. So the scientific side, and what you were saying is rarity rules. And so if you have 2 shells that are equally rare, then you would go on the quality of the shell, which is in the best shape, which doesn't have any breaks or anything. And the educational part of it comes into 2, because these displays all have backboards that explain the shell. And so the education value comes into play and in the scientific side. And they're judged on the quality and how they're displayed and education value.
And I'm glad you're asking this question, because 3 of the videos in the virtual Sanibel Shell Show, one is about the history of the show, because we have some great footage going back to when it started on the porch of the Island Inn over 80 years ago. So we have a history of the show. We have recollections from people on the island. Meade Johnson talks a little bit about it. Deb Gleason and some others talk about what it was like to go when they were kids. And then we have a really excellent video that's an overview of what to expect at a normal Sanibel Shell Show. So 3 of our well over 35 videos have to do with telling you what this is.
So they're all shells that you find. Everything that so there are some shells that are made.
Okay, no, they're all been live. They're all body parts, but you can collect them yourself, or you can buy them. And then here comes another aspect of the scientific area, because you are competing amongst each other for self-collected shells, which are one category, or worldwide, which means you could have any source, I should say. They can be any source, which means you can buy them, you can find them, you can trade for them, or they've been given to you as a gift. But if you're entering a class that sells self-collected, that means you picked it up off the beach yourself or found it.
So, okay, so there's no possibility of cheaters in this whole thing, right? I mean,
well, there has been.
Huh?
There are counterfeit shells.
What a bunch of losers, Joyce. I mean, why would you cheat at a shell show?
Well, I don't know that you would cheat, but the people that were making these shells were getting good money. And it's been a long time, because I remember when this is my 27th year. My husband and I retired in 93. And we traveled from Salem, Oregon, 18 years and stayed in Periwinkle Park.
Wow.
And a friend's grandson calculated that we have circumnavigated the globe 5.5 times. So that's a lot of diesel.
Dang,
but anyway, when we first started collecting collecting shells, there's a shell called the golden cowrie, and they were actually being made by artificial means. I don't know how. And so you had to be careful when you bought them. I don't think that's the case any longer. But if you go back in history, shell collecting got really popular in the 1700s, and it was called the hobby of kings because it was for the wealthy. And they would actually send out excursions to islands to collect these shells. And there was a beautiful little shell called the precious wintle trap, about that big, very ornate. And they were really well sought after. And I can't remember if it was the Japanese or the Chinese got wind of these crazy people paying big bucks, and they started making these out of rice paper. And they made these counterfeit shells and sold them. And now the irony is that what was a very expensive shell at one time, you can probably buy, I haven't bought one forever, but probably $30 or something to $50, depending on the quality. But there are only 2 fake ones left, and they're worth thousands and thousands of dollars.
Oh, wow. So you've been doing it for, you said, like 27 years, right, Joyce? Is that, or so anyone ever break out into a fight? Like, my shells are better than your shells? And no? Nothing like that?
You almost come to it. You restrain yourself, especially if it's a beautiful shell right in front of you. It happened to my husband. He saw a Junonia about 3 feet in front of him, and a woman came from around the side of him and ran in front of him and grabbed it. Now, that is not good shelling etiquette.
No, that does happen. On the beach, I've had plenty of encounters with people who were like, well, I was going to find that Junonia if you hadn't found it. I'm like, well, maybe you were, but I just found it. But in a shell show environment, yes, judging is somewhat subjective, so someone may disagree with what the judges choose for first, second, or third place. To my knowledge, blood has not been drawn, but on the beach, you
close to it.
on the beach, I could tell you stories of, oh yeah.
So do you need to like wear protective gear if you're out on the beach? To like pads and helmets required for shelling?
Stop asking a silly question like that. What is the answer though?
Not unless you intend to steal.
So you have shell security and the whole thing at the shell show. And where can I go find what the proper shell etiquette is, Claire? Is there a shell etiquette website? Oh my God, they're lighting up.
Yes. We have a wonderful video, which will be forever on our website, sanibelshellclub.com. Let me say that again, sanibelshellclub.com. After the show, all these videos will be there for you. And we have a wonderful video created by one of our members and her granddaughter and her daughter. And it's Wendy the Wintle Trap speaking to you about beach etiquette. So
and that's probably a shell, right? Wendy's a shell?
The Wintle Trap is a shell, and Wendy is her name in this video.
What is the rarest shell of all time? Like, is there a shell that if you saw it, you would be like, that thing?
You would be knocking somebody over to get it?
Well, the rarest shells, you probably would not knock somebody over to get them because they would be not found on a beach, found diving, and you might pull somebody's regulator off or something, but you wound down deep in the Indo-Pacific region picking up something. Here it's the Junonia, a lion's paw, Scotch bonnet, a triton, a few things like that, but nothing here is that valuable. Joyce, do you have a thought?
No, I think you covered it.
So when does the club meet? How can people join? Give us all the skinny on that.
Great. SanibelShellClub.com. Yes. Because we're just meeting virtually now.
Yeah.
And
so generally we meet at the community house, but our programs are being Zoomed right now, which is wonderful because anybody anywhere can join. We have a member who lives in Switzerland who is now able to come to the meetings. After the meetings, they're posted on Zoom. So you can actually go to Zoom and see the programs, which have been wonderful. And to join, you just go to the website. We take PayPal. You can go right on there and click donate. If you want to give us money, you can click join, and we'll have links for the virtual show, which again is March 5th and 6th.
And do you meet once a month, once a week?
Once a month.
October through April.
Right.
Okay.
You got to take a break every once in a while because too much shelling will drive anyone crazy, right? So you take a little break there.
If you're on Sanibel, you never take a break.
That's true. So I know the Kiwanis Club doesn't allow women on Sanibel. I'm guessing your club is men and women because you don't discriminate against women in any way.
We do. We don't discriminate against men, Ed. You will be glad to know. You are there. You are more than welcome. And Joyce, my husband, shells is reluctantly on occasion, but he's traveled to Tonga, the Philippines, etc., with me shelling. And
Wow.
Joyce's husband was an excellent sheller, really superb. So, yep, we got boys, we got girls, we got dogs, we got cats, you name it.
So tell us, before we let you go, give us another rundown on the event.
Thank you for asking. March 5th and 6th on the Sanibel Shell Club's YouTube channel. You will get there by going to sanibelshellclub.com and clicking on a link. It is March 5th and March 6th from 12 to 3 p.m. both days, completely different content either day. And then it will be on our website thereafter. And that's our usual festival weekends. So we're doing it as a placeholder. We thank our almost 60 sponsors who have contributed enough so that we'll be able to have a robust grant program next year, even without COVID happening. And we thank the videographers from all over. Each of our grantees has made a video. We have hours and hours of fantastic, all original footage that's going to be shown.
Will you guys be hosting it?
Yes.
We are there.
Yeah, it'll be live. It's just like a 3-hour movie. We personally, Phil, she's our cephalopod ceremony.
I was just going to say that's a cephalopod.
Is that a show?
No, it's an octopus.
Ceremonies. So I have the honor as chair of the show of welcoming folks and giving them housekeeping measures in my cephalopod attire.
Claire, you got to break out of your shell and
That was a good one.
And that is the weekend of our, like she said, the normal Shell Festival, and the SCA, the Sanibel Community Association, will be having their portion. What they usually have outside because of they can't get permits to have outside activities. What they usually have outside will be inside that same weekend.
Yep.
So who are you two going to vote for on March 2nd?
The best candidates.
Yeah. And
you're good.
I'm off island, so I don't qualify.
Oh, okay.
Who
would you vote for, Joyce?
Have no clue.
Well, we want to thank you guys for coming on. It's been a lot of fun, even with the hat. Claire, we appreciate you coming on. And wait, is the event free or is there an entry fee to the? Okay, so people get on.
Free. Thank you for asking.
It's going to be like 10,000 faces on the Zoom thing, right? Is that what it's going to be?
It's not Zoom, it's YouTube. So you will see faces. You'll see just a wonderful video going.
Cool.
And you can watch it on your TV or on your computer.
Cool. And you guys will let us know afterward how much money was raised in the whole thing so we can put that on our site. Cool.
We will.
All right. Well, hopefully there's no leaf
much.
blowers in your backyard and you guys are enjoying the great day out there. It's a beautiful day and we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having us. You guys are awesome.
All right.
Appreciate
Take care. Bye-bye, Claire. Bye-bye, Joyce. Have a nice one. Oh, they were so nice.
They were.
I didn't know shells